Yes, hey, that looks like home. Thank you. Well, hello everybody from my side. Yeah, I think the best way to begin this is just to give you a little bit of background how this all came about. I've been in the corporate world for many years. I went to normal school, got good education, and was conditioned the way to go into the system, and tried that for about 30 years and couldn't find my happiness there. And so I was towards the end of my corporate career, sitting on the Isle of Man, working for the world's third biggest coffee broker, and working stock markets, Reuters screens, trading, hedging. We were doing all sorts of financial transactions and coffee transactions. And my sort of waking point came when I heard that our suppliers in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, South and Central America were walking off their farms, and they were heading up to America, trying to cross the Mexican desert for better opportunities. And I went to my boss and I said, we look after our customers very well, but we don't seem to look after our suppliers very well. And I said, without a supplier, we don't have a customer. So can you please send me over to South America, and I'll see if I can find a way to improve their livelihoods. And so we can still make profit in the company, we can still do what we do, but let's see if we can assist these people. And my boss turned to me and he pointed his finger in my face. It was a very disturbing experience when he said, Jan, just remember, you are here to buy low and sell high. We're here for profit and not for anything else. Now focus on your work and leave the suppliers alone. Well, 3 months later, I resigned. I couldn't handle that energy. It was purely money-based and nothing else. I had also felt quite exploited there. So I didn't know what to do. I had a house on the Isle of Man and I had 17 bedrooms, and so I was letting them out. So I had money coming in, and I carried on earning the rental income, and I went over to Central Europe, and I went and found myself a Unimog truck and brought it back to the island, and then started planning a house on the back. And I was just going to go back to Africa and figure out what this was all about. And that's exactly what I did. I built up the Unimog, had a 4-star hotel room on the back, and drove into Africa. And for 8 months, I just bumbled about trying to figure out why, if I was doing everything I'd been conditioned to do, could I not find the result that was anticipated or promised? And I realized it had nothing to do with what I was told the result would be. I had to find it within myself. And then the question came, well, who is myself? So I had to find me first. And in that 8 months, it was quite an adventurous journey, but a lot of time spent contemplating, meditation, and experiencing wonderful people, wonderful things in Africa, bouncing around shores of Lake Malawi. And, it was just a magic life traveling around. And I had a company registered that I could go back to, and I could be earning a fortune. And I decided I'm not going to go back to the corporate world. I'm coming back to Africa to stay. So I turned around on my journey north, came back to South Africa, and decided I'm going natural now. I'm not going back to corporate. So that's where this whole thing started. I think everybody knows what synchronicity means. But from then on, a whole bunch of synchronistic events happened. And I managed to meet some good people who were already doing this kind of thing, organic farming. I spent some time there piggybacking on their experience and staying in the Unimog on their farms, with the intention of eventually doing something like this ourselves. I realized that the system was nothing to be relied on, and I had to become self-reliant. And then I met Shereen, and the two of us went looking for property, and we put in a number of offers on property, and one after the next fell through. Some properties were not even owned by the people selling them. We had land claims on others that hadn't been declared. And so one opportunity after the next failed, and the doors kept closing. And eventually we found this piece of land. It was not in our brief. It was further from town than what we anticipated, what we wanted. It was completely overrun. It had been a neglected farm for about 20 years. So it was just a piece of land with brambles and bugweed and a dilapidated shed and some old wrecked machinery lying around and lots of scrap metal, and it just wasn't much. Anyway, we felt the vibe and we decided to buy it. And that was just coming on 6 years ago. So we arrived in a caravan. We had a dam that was, 2 dams that were leaking, both of them. The water level was extremely low. There was no plumbing system. There was the remnants of a toilet, no showers, no borehole pump. Everything had been stolen out of the place. And so we just started clearing. This was, as I say, 6 years ago. In the beginning, we had to go down to the dam with buckets to come back and flush the toilets. And we were showering under a black bag that had been heated up in the sun. And we hoisted it up and showered under that. So very, very humble and simple beginnings. And for the first year, we didn't even have a fridge. And so we moved in, we started clearing. And after about a year and a half, we could actually see what we had bought. And we had 11 hectares of timber, grandis gum, and the rest of the land, which is 25 hectares in total. So another 14 hectares of grassland, basically, and some old fruit trees. We found a little plum orchard. There were about 10 trees. And we discovered a well on the property. And that's when I started learning how to manage water. So first repaired the 2 dams. Then we got a borehole pump. We stuck it down the hole. So the water security was the primary focus at that time. I think water is the primary focus for any operation like this. And we looked at, so the third way of gaining water was harvesting from the roof, from the rooftops, rainwater. So we had 3 sources of water, one from the dam, one from the borehole, and one from the rainfall. We established an outside veg garden. We got some chickens, and then we bought a tunnel. So we had an indoor veg garden as well. And so we started building this up slowly but surely. So we're 6 years down the line now. We've managed to get quite a lot of infrastructure development. And we've decided to mechanize rather than to employ, because we've walked away from the slave system. So we don't want to enslave others. It would be hypocritical if we were doing exactly to them what we don't want to have done to us. So we have, after we cleared and we got ourselves reasonably set up, and then this COVID nonsense started. And we were very lucky that we already had our food and our water security, so it didn't really affect us. We did get a solar system in place, a small solar system, a 3 kVA. So that serves our basic needs. And we've learned a hell of a lot along the way. We've learned how to do mechanical work, plumbing work, electrical work, water management, plant management, animal husbandry. We've learned what extended community relations are like, negotiations with government, because we own a piece of land, so they're involved with us in that way. So we've walked a long journey on this. We're very, let's call it not a long journey, but an interesting and an in-depth journey. And now we're at that point where we've had to decide, what are we going to do? Because although we don't have money as the number one slot or focus in our lives, money comes into it. And so we also have to have some kind of an income. And we looked at this property and saying, it's too big for just the 2 of us. And actually, Shereen's got a daughter, Maddie. So too big for the 3 of us. And if we're not employing, we've got to do something. And we had some ideas of turning this into some kind of a retreat where people can come and do emotional trauma healing, or just coming and chilling. And then we decided, let's open the doors to community, because there must be a lot of people out there who want to do this kind of thing, but can't afford the time or the resources to go and buy a piece of land and start this all for themselves. Perhaps we could pool our resources and let them piggyback on our hard work. And so that's what we did. We opened the doors about 1.5 years ago. And we said that people can come here in community and rent a circle from us. So we'd have the communal area, and then they can have their own respective independent areas. And we've yeah, I'll get onto the rental structure and how we do that as well a little later. But the bottom line principle is, let's see if we can get others to join in so they don't have to go through all the hard work, the backbreaking work that we've had to do. So that's where we sit pretty much now.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about the rental structure and about the animals and the gardens, how you've all put that together and how you work with that and with people living there?
Yes, thank you for that. I would. Yeah, we've got, let's start with the animals. We decided that animals were important. So we've got 4 rescue donkeys. We've got some ducks, we've got geese, we've got 2 pigs, we've got some sheep, 6 sheep, and we've got a whole bunch of chickens and a dog. So those are the animals that we have. We don't slaughter on site. We don't, in fact, eat our own animals. But that's not because we are vegetarians or vegans. We've just decided not to go do that part of the process, and it's something that obviously needs to be addressed and discussed. And going forward as a community, anybody who wants to join us, I think, needs to have their ideas as well of where they stand with it, and see if we can find a communal philosophy to apply. The veg gardens, we've got an outdoor and an indoor veg garden. We've also planted about 80 to 100 fruit trees of different varieties. So we've got peaches, pears, apricots, nectarines, pomegranates, cherries, apples, pears, pineapples, plums, bananas, avocados, lemons. Yeah, so we've got a whole nice variety, all interspersed. So we're not doing like long straight lines of farming. And the idea is that will become a food forest. So underneath that, we'll plant the pumpkins and watermelons and other smaller shrubs and herbs and things, so that people can just walk through the forest and forage from high and low. As for the rentals, so what we've done is we've been camping in the shed for the last years, because that was the only usable structure there was. And it was supposed to be temporary, when we just haven't managed the time yet to come and build our own structure, our own home. So we're still camping in the shed, and we'd like to ultimately build our own structure and then move out of the shed and have this as a communal kitchen or a communal gathering place. So we've earmarked 7 sites where people can occupy. The sites are an organic shape. We call it circles. The whole, let's start with the name of the property. We've called it DIGSIM, which is short for Dignified Simplicity. And I think that says a lot in itself. So we keep things simple, but we like to keep things dignified. So the DIGSIM Circles project has about 7 circles. The circles are approximately 400 square meters each. And they're positioned in such a way that each occupant can see its neighbor, his or her neighbor, but you're far away enough for privacy. So it's like a lager. It offers security for the group, for the community in its entirety. The buy-in fee is 10,000 Rand, and that will get you a trench dug to your site, and we will lay in a water pipe and cap it. When you arrive with your tiny house or your removable house or naturally built house, you let us know. We'll switch off the water and you connect up to your home, and then we'll reconnect again. We'll switch on the water again. We don't charge for water at this stage, so the drinking water is from the borehole. It's very, very nice. It's clean. It's the right pH, and we're not charging for that. So that 10,000 Rand also includes a 2,000-liter Jojo tank for the duration of your stay. We'll provide that, and that's to encourage people to harvest rainwater off their roofs for cleaning their car or feeding their dog or pets, or even if they wish to wash outside, shower outside, and water the garden, of course. So that's the 10,000 Rand buy-in, and that's refundable after, non-refundable after 3 months. In the first 3 months, if somebody says, hey, we thought this was the right idea and they wish to leave, then we'll pro rata refund them. But after 3 months, the expenses have been covered and incurred, and that's non-refundable. But it doesn't matter if you stay 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, that buy-in fee is just a one-off. Then we did initially set the rent at, if I remember correctly, it was 1,500 Rand a month, which is very low. And we were encouraging people to participate, because obviously in a community, you want participation. In fact, we've come up with the 3 Ps, which is payment, presence, and participation. Presence, so that people can be together in a community and not just have like a little inexpensive place to come for a weekend, but to actually show commitment by being here. And the participation and the payment, of course, because we've had a capital outlay that needs to be covered as well. So with that 1,500 and asking people to participate, we found that once they'd paid, they didn't really want to participate. They didn't show willingness. It was too easy just to stay at home and actually not to participate. So we've changed the structure slightly, and we've actually included the cost of participation. So we've now set the rent at 2,500 a month. And if people work for 5 days, then they get 1,000 Rand in a month. They get 1,000 Rand off the next month. So basically the rent stays at 1,500, but it's to encourage people to put in the participation. And then we put on a levy on top of that of 250 Rand, and that's for the community pot. So essentially the rent is either 2,750 if people don't participate, or 1,750 if they do participate. Yeah, that's the rentals, and we've set it in such a way. The participation, we're very easy on that. It's about between 6 and 8 hours a day, and that could be anything from helping with building work, or fixing fences, or building fences, erecting fences. Yeah, there's also gardening. There's all sorts of chores and jobs that need to be done. And one of the things that I think needs to be pointed out about this lifestyle, that a lot of people see it as idealistic, and it's really nice and you're living in nature, but we've never worked so hard in our lives before. The ailments and injuries that we get, you're constantly bashing or cutting, or there's a lot of hardship in this lifestyle. It's not an easy life, but it's the most rewarding lifestyle I've ever had. And I think Shereen, similarly, she's got stuck into the gardens, and she loves being, I won't speak for her, she can speak for herself just now. But it's a wonderful, wonderful lifestyle, but it takes a lot of letting go of what we've been taught. So you've got to learn not to rely so much on the supermarkets. You've got to rely on the land, not to rely on the roads, but to stay here and to actually do what we're focused on. And a lot of people don't understand that when you come here, you don't have that connection with the system as much anymore. And my experience in seeing the people that have come here is it's not that they don't want this lifestyle, it's that they're not ready to let go of what they're accustomed to in the cities, in the urban areas. So they're reliant on their work, they're reliant on a source of income, they're reliant on the cinemas or the malls or the shops, or various whatever the luxuries are from the system. Yeah, DSTV is a good one. Shereen's just mentioned, yeah. So we do have electricity here. We've set up a little solar system, but we've had to adjust our lifestyle because the solar system we set up is so small. It runs a fridge, it runs a few lights, and it runs a few computers or cell phones and the Wi-Fi. But together, these things drain it quite quickly. So if we've had a couple of misty days, we do run short. So what we find is it's much better when it gets dark, go to bed. When it gets light in the morning, get up. We don't sit up until 2 o'clock in the morning with lights going and Wi-Fi and surfing the net. So we've adjusted our lifestyles to suit the conditions that we live amongst. Just thought on the accommodation that we're inviting people to bring. I didn't mention that earlier. We would like people to come with a tiny house that's removable. And the reason for that is we've experienced one lady came here and she died soon after. She did tell us that she had terminal cancer. And we said to her, oh, you've only got terminal cancer if you believe that it's terminal. And shame, she did pass away, but she had already built a structure that couldn't really be removed. So people do die and people do wish to, they change their minds and they do wish to move on. And we don't want to have problems with taking over ownership or being left with something in an estate belonging to somebody else and something that we then have to start maintaining or managing. So we ask people if they do come here, come and meet us first of all, come and see the land, come and feel it, come and sense it. It really is, it's a beautiful space. And then if all goes well, then get yourself a removable house. So it could be a yurt or a tent or a geodesic dome, a boat or a bus or something, or a cabin, yeah, building something perhaps even underground with natural materials that can just be returned to the ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Yeah, so I think those are the two criterion, is to have something that's either removable or something that's built naturally. It's out of wattle and daub or something and thatch. So there's a lot of options that people can exercise. I think I've covered those bases.
Okay, and Jan, your gardens, is that communal or was it just your gardens?
It's a difficult one to say because we've invested in the tunnel that wasn't cheap, and all the fencing around the outside gardens. And we've also invested a lot in the seedlings and things. But I think what we encourage is for everybody to have their own gardens in their own circles as well. And that we commune and we can, it all depends on people's input, I think. You know, if somebody, it would be very unfair if somebody doesn't want to work in the communal gardens or in the gardens and then expects to eat from it. So the whole idea that we have is fair exchange. If people are showing willingness to exchange fairly, we've got no problem at all sharing of our things. But when we see people, and we've had that where people don't want to give, but they just want to take, then we get an imbalance in the energies, and that's awkward. So we're hoping to attract people to come here who understand what sharing and caring and togetherness is all about. And that we're not sitting here counting hours and saying, oh, it's 1:45 in the afternoon, it's lunchtime, I'm leaving, and then just down tools and go. What we're encouraging people is just that general attitude of this is ours, this is where we live. And we just put in all the amount of work that we can and need to in order to make it beneficial for the community. Unfortunately, with people who are not contributionary, if that's a word, that people are not that willing to put in, but they want to take out, then we've had to make rules for people, and we don't want to be a place that makes rules. We don't want to be bound by those things that we're actually walking away from. So again, we're hoping for the right attitudes of people, the people who are mature enough to understand that you've got to produce before you can consume. You can't just expect to come to a place, oh, nice cheap rent, and let's consume everything, and others are going to do work in the gardens. So yeah, we've got no problem in sharing from the gardens, but we'd also expect people to put into those gardens. Then we can certainly consider them as communal.
Yeah. Gardening is hard work and it's not for everybody.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And the animals, you've gathered quite a few animals there?
Yes, that came out of circumstance. We didn't plan to have an animal farm. What actually happened is we had somebody who came here with some sheep and some pigs, and then he decided to go traveling over to the UK and asked if we were interested in taking those animals over. So in a way, we were burdened, dumped with them, but we've turned it into our advantage, but it is still quite a burden to carry them. The rescue donkeys were also, again, by circumstance. We didn't really go out looking for them. We heard about somebody who was trying to get rid of donkeys, and so we said, oh, well, let's take them on. But they add to the farmyard atmosphere, and it's lovely to have them. So what we're doing at the moment is, if they breed, we'll sell off the youngsters, and that's just to have an interchange of bloodlines with other similar like-minded organizations or other farms. We're not doing it as a commercial entity, but if somebody comes along and wants to start farming with animals, I think that would be encouraged. We'd like to see that. We've had some people interested in, for example, managing chickens commercially, and we're not opposed to that. It's just what we don't want to have is a whole bunch of chicken farms and have monoculture farming. And on that note, I think I should just mention, whilst we grow organically and we do everything we do in a natural organic style, we're not permaculturalists as such. So we don't follow permaculture or hugelculture or any other philosophy to the letter. What we do is we take the best of everything and just farm our way, feel our way forwards.
Okay.
Oh,
and what has been some of your highlights on the farm?
Oh, yeah. I think just before I get onto that, ThandiMichelle, Shereen just wants to say something about the gardens, because that's more her domain. Can we hand over to her for a second, and then I'll come back to those highlights.
Okay, so I spend, I'd say 90% of my time here in the garden. Jan's doing mowing or fixing something or whatever he needs to do that is a little bit more hardcore. So when people have come to stay with us, they identify quite quickly whether they're gardening people or not. And they will quite often join me either in the tunnel or outside, just planting or weeding or just seeing what will grow here naturally. And I tend to try to plant the things that will grow, the things that enjoy growing here easily outside. The things that are a little more finicky, I tend to put into the tunnel so I can control the environment a little for them. But it's, if people are helping in the garden and only in the garden, it doesn't mean that they can't get a couple of eggs from the chickens later, because it's, they're assisting in some way, so they can get veggies for the pot for the night, and they can get some eggs for breakfast in the morning. And every sort of 6 months or so, I join in with somebody who helps me do a honey harvest, because we have bees as well. And then we sit and spin that honey, and community gets honey for that as well. So it doesn't really matter where community involves themselves. It's more they're able to tap into eggs or veggies or honey or whatever it is that we're doing, as long as we feel there's a fair exchange on their side as well. Jan's not particularly fond of the bees. He's been sort of chased by them a couple of times while he's out mowing or on the tractor. So I can't imagine he's going to mention those as one of his highlights. But I tend to end up doing the honey side of things a little bit more than he does. He helps prepping the frames and things, but the actual harvesting and putting into bottles is me. So it really doesn't matter if you're not a garden person, but you're happy to help with chickens, or you really quite like the bees. If you involve yourself in any of those, areas, or even fencing off for the animals if they've broken through their fences and we need to fix that, then you will be able to get some of the spoils, if you like, of what we've created. So, the honey that comes from the bees, or the eggs from the chickens, or the veggies, or whatever it is, we share, and our fruit trees are coming into abundance at this stage, and we can share that as well. So that's kind of where the exchange comes in.
And on that note, I'd like to say as well, we have 11 hectares of gum, and we found this little sawmill for sale some years ago. So we bought the sawmill, but I haven't had time to commission it and get it going. So there's an opportunity for somebody, if they want to come along here and start milling. The mill's here. We've got a bulldozer to pull the logs. We've got chainsaws to cut the trees. We've got the trees to be cut. So there's even business opportunities for people that we've already invested in. Let's say most of it, all they have to do is come and bring in their labor. So for anybody who's interested, there are other projects as well. We'd love to see mushroom growing here. People want to milk the sheep and make cheeses or process the fruit. Yeah, there's lots of things to be done. Right, you asked about highlights. Oh, there have been many. Just last week there was a beautiful one. I was busy cutting the grass, and there were some wild arum lilies just growing in the middle of nowhere, and I thought that was a beauty. When a young hen starts laying for the first time and you get this 2 centimeter egg, those are highlights. The little things are highlights. Just watching the cherries on the trees and the plums getting ripe. And then we had a beautiful experience about 2 months ago when we went into the paddock, and a sheep who we didn't even know was pregnant had just dropped 2 lambs. So watching chickens hatch out of eggs, it's all beautiful experiences, so many highlights, one after the next. And then also just sitting around the campfire in the evening, just everybody wanting to sing together or just sharing a meal or a drink. It's just so nice, the drumming circles, just sitting around the fire in the evening at full moon. It's also a lovely, lovely, lovely experience. We have sometimes 4 seasons in a day, and some weather conditions here are just so magnificent. You cannot even put it into words. The gratitude we feel just being here. So yeah, I think there's a few lowlights as well. I mean, times when I bump my head and then there's cursing, and we have to sort those things out. But that's part of life. That's the duality of it all.
Yeah. It sounds absolutely wonderful. We all want to have a better quality of life. And when you break up the responsibility amongst many people, it makes it easier for everybody.
Absolutely.
And not
And
everybody,
I think on that one,
not everybody wants to manage a big piece of land. And we don't have to live in each other's pockets. There's enough land on this planet for all of us.
Absolutely. And believe me, owning a piece of land is not fun, because you've got to answer to the municipality. They want rates, even though they do nothing for the rates. It's just a land tax that you have to pay. So, and when you own land, you've got to look after the fire breaks. You've got to look after your animals, keep them in, keep other people's animals out. You've got to look at security. So being a landowner is not all that fun. I mean, it's lovely to say, oh, I own a piece of land, but also all that capital that you've got goes into just a piece of paper. And I think that's madness. That ownership system there's something wrong with it. So we've put quite a lot of money into a piece of paper to say, but we don't get many benefits from that. We don't even have the security of knowing that we can own this land forever, because somebody can take it away from us, as we've seen with the expropriation bill that's being passed.
Yeah.
So to me, what we're looking at here is the qualities of people. I look at it from a point of view, people who are dependent, I don't think would be ready for this yet. But people who have a sense of independence and interdependence, I think have a chance to come to a place like this and actually make it in community. It's not going to be easy for anybody, not for us either, because giving up our space and sharing it with others has its own implications. But for everybody who joins in a system like this, we learn about human relations. We learn about our own insecurities. We learn about our own characteristics. So there's a lot of time for reflection, introspection, and projection as well. You watch yourself project and you say, oh, was that me? So people get to know each other very intimately when they're working together, living together. So there's a lot of advantages, but there's a lot of, I wouldn't call them disadvantages. I think awkwardnesses, challenges to cross before one feels immensely comfortable with the decision to have come this way. So we encourage people not to take the decision lightly, but we don't want to discourage people from moving towards nature. And so we're trying to enable them an opportunity that if they haven't got the money to afford to go and buy their own piece of land, come and join us or come and stay with us for a little while. We do have 2 caravans, so if people want to come and spend a couple of nights and just get the feel of it, especially if they come from long distance, we prefer to keep the caravans available for people who come from afar. If people live nearby, just pop in for a few hours, come walk around, come back again, bring a picnic blanket and a basket, and come and sit down by the dam, or bring your own tent and come and move around the property, sleep in different places and see if it appeals, and get to know us and see what, come and chat and ask us about the things that we've experienced and come and see what we do on a daily basis to determine if it's really an alternative for what people are leaving.
Very nice.
Because everyone's got their own reasons for doing something different. And so the reasons why we came here was out of choice, but a lot of people now are coming out of necessity. We've had so many people approach us since we've been promoting this project, and you can just see they just want to get away from where they are, but they don't know what they're coming to. And we know straight away that those are not the people that they're not ready for this yet. And we've tried a couple, and we just know it's proven time and again. So we prefer people who come here out of choice and who've made that decision. The old is not for them anymore. We've got to find something new. It's got to be in nature. We don't want to pioneer something ourselves, but we'll join with somebody else who's already pioneering, and then we'll just put in our effort and share. I think that would be the best sort of mindset to approach something like this under.
Yeah. Okay. I want to know, can we get people to ask you some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Who would like to ask the first question? Go for it, Mandy.
Hi, Jan. I just want to know your picture, that snake around your neck. Where was that taken? Sorry.
No problem. Good question. I can't see that picture, but it is my profile on Google. Yeah, that was an ex-girlfriend of mine years ago who had a pet python. And I think that was taken on a day when I took the python for a slither. It had to go for its daily walk without legs. And it was actually quite a sad situation that particular day because I'd been dating this girl for not too long, and she had little Yorkies as well. And so I took the snake out for a slither, and her name was Delilah, and she was in the long grass, and one of the Yorkies came running up. And Delilah saw the movement and lashed out and caught the dog. And I stood there and I thought, what am I going to do now? I've got a python with a Yorkie in its mouth. I can tell my girlfriend when she comes home that the python's been fed, but she's not going to be happy to know that Brandy went down the hatch. So I grabbed the snake by the tail and I swung it around, and the snake luckily left the dog alone. And then I put the snake around my neck. And somebody with humor came and took a picture of me at that moment, and that became my profile picture.
Wow.
No, that's cool. I just thought maybe it was from where you were living right now. So I just thought, sure, but no, I don't know. Okay, no, that's cool. Okay, thank you. No, that was my question. Cool,
No
thanks.
problem. Just to elaborate on that, there are snakes here, but not many. We have seen in 6 years, with all the disturbing of the land that we've done, and I say disturbing because it's in a good sense. It's not disturbing for just disturbance sake. I think if I've seen 15 to 20 snakes, it's a lot in 6 years. And out of those, most of them are these little grass snakes, harmless little snakes. I've only seen one puff adder, a little one. And the rest are, I cannot see them as being threatening. So, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. Just quickly, another thought. At nighttime with the wild, with your livestock, how do you deal with the predators at night? Do you have an issue with that?
Very good question. And there are predators. We have had a genet attacking our chickens. We had to sort that out. We've got jackals here, and now what we do is we put the donkeys and the sheep and the pigs and the geese all together in the one paddock. And the donkeys tend to keep the jackals away. We have seen traces of a bigger cat. What cat was it? Sorry, Shereen? A serval cat. But we've never seen the cat itself. Our neighbors did have a night camera up and took pictures of it. So it's been on our neighbor's property. So we know it's around. But there is also talk of a leopard in the area, but we haven't seen it. We know it's just, we don't have problems with the wildlife. We do have raptors that do take our chickens, our little chickens, from time to time, and that's something we can't stop. We don't want to shoot at the raptors. Monkeys eat our fruit, but they're also not many. It's not like in some towns where town is overrun by vervet monkeys. We don't have a major problem with any, with any kind of, there's no threat. Even security here, we don't have a security issue. We've never had any hits here. Our neighbor got burgled in the mist one morning. Somebody broke into an unoccupied house, a building. But in this area, we generally don't have much crime at all. So it's from a human point of view, human threats or animal threats, we feel it's bearable. It's very doable.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Gideon, go for it.
Hi, good evening. I must have missed the area where you are. I've got two questions. The first one is I want to find out exactly where is this area that you're talking about. Is it Daryl?
Yeah, that's Jan.
Jan. Jan.
Thanks, Gideon. Yeah, we're in the Karkloof. I think Afrikaans would say Karkloof. And that was named after an ox kar that was actually broken down hundreds of years ago on the route here. So we're 29 kilometers east of Howick. So if you had to draw a triangle between Mooi River, Greytown, and Howick, we're somewhere in the middle there.
Get an idea of the area because I saw some snow there, and you're talking about puff adders.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's an interesting question as well. We are just in the snow belt. If we were to go as the crow flies 14 kilometers towards the coast, we're in the sugar belt. But that's at the bottom of an escarpment. So we're elevated, although we're only 14 kilometers as the crow flies from sugar belt, we are elevated, so we're in the snow belt. And it snows here once every 7 years or so. It's not normal. Those pictures were taken last year, and that was the first time we had snow since we got here.
Okay. Got it. That's Natal Midlands.
Yes, Natal Midlands. Sorry, yeah. KZN Midlands.
To get back to the community gardens, which seems to be on a lot of people's lips, but I do anticipate one of the problems that, and I think you did mention it. I just want to see if you can give us a little bit more insight from your experience. Do you think it's the best way to just give people their own space area, a couple of square meters, and say, this is your area, you do here what you want to do? Because I know what's going to happen. They want to come and participate in an area, but they know nothing. They know nothing. You're going to have to tell them how to do things or what to do. And I mean, there's so many different ways of doing something. How do you make people go on their own? And then you understand what I'm trying to say? Because you just said, I'm trying to ask you.
I know exactly where you're coming from. Yes, I think if I had to answer that in twofold, one is if there's a willingness, even if someone doesn't have the experience, willingness is more important than experience, because you've got people who've got all the experience and knowledge, but no willingness. That doesn't really work in a community. So if the willingness is there to learn, we're there willing to help. And we've had it with people that come here and they're wet behind the ears. They really don't know much about anything, but the willingness is there, and we'll help as much as we can. So where people have problems with building, I've actually helped with the building planning and the coordination and just making some suggestions. When it comes to gardening, Shereen's also willing to help out and guide people. And if we don't know what's going on, we sit together and we try and work it out. And that's something that I have to share is when I came here, there was no guidebook. How do you run a farm? I didn't come from farming background. What do you do? How do you fix a tractor when it breaks down? You know, we've got a little mini TLB and suddenly it stops working in the field. How do you fix that? So yeah, we're there. And 3-4 weeks ago, just before the rain started, I was busy working with the bulldozer in the dam and the track came off. And if I hadn't moved quickly, that bulldozer's exhaust pipe would be sticking out the water now, but the rest of the machine would be underwater. So I've never extracted a bulldozer from a dam before, certainly not in the wet season, but we pulled in the neighbors and got the ropes and everything. So, you know, we work things out. We have to if there's a willingness by people, you work together, you all stand together and just make a plan and make it happen.
Yeah, no, I understand. All right. Yeah. Just talking
answered the question.
And listening to you, there is some solutions that comes up in my mind, because I know, like you say, there's no handbook for the stuff. You just have to wing it, as the Englishmen say it, and
yes,
make a plan in mid-air.
Yeah, believe me, we wing it a lot here.
You got your wings. Thanks, Dan, very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, no questions. All right. Well, this is a really good thing that you guys are doing. There are people that really want to make the transition. And I think this is a good solution going forward, so that we can eventually have the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker kind of trades and industries going, and people living simpler lives. So thank you very much, Jan and Shereen, for being part of the few communities in South Africa that are setting an example of getting it done. And I will definitely share what you guys have done. I'll share it on our YouTube channel. I'll encourage people to watch it, and you guys are welcome to share the link as well to anybody that's prospective residents there in Karkloof.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I may just close and just add one more thing. We've been asked so many times, why haven't you got a website? Why aren't you recording everything that you're doing? Why aren't you documenting? Why aren't you drawing up contracts and getting lawyers involved and getting promotion marketing agents? And to be honest, a lot of that takes so much time and effort that if we were focusing on those things, we would be talking the walk, we wouldn't be walking the talk. And so we've taken this on knowing that we haven't got time to do all that. So we just really get on with it. And if there's a problem, we try and overcome it. And if people are interested, they'll join us. And we do rely on others, like word of mouth, to promote us, but we don't want to go and start a whole big commercial thing and send people photographs and spend 2-3 hours a night doing marketing and telling everybody what we're doing, recording it and YouTube videos and all that kind of thing. So we also wish to thank you, ThandiMichelle, for being prepared to look at what we're doing and actually, help us along and help others to find what we're doing as well. And hopefully we'll get the right people to come and join us.
Yeah.
And
I'm
welcome
envisioning
anybody.
this will also inspire others that have already got a property or want to do something in a different area of the country, that they can see, they can hear, they can what you guys have done, because it's possible for
Yes.
more of us to actually get this kind of thing done.
Absolutely. Very important.
Yeah. And they'll
To
never,
inspire others and to encourage them.
yeah, and city living will always be a thing, and so be it. I mean, we're so different as humanity. Things we'll always have cities, and we'll have countrysides, and we'll have villages, but there's got to be space for different people to live out what they really want to experience. And this is what you want to experience, and what I want to
Sure.
experience one day. So yeah, I like it.
And it's not a bad lifestyle. It really, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's independent and interdependent. You're in nature, you have challenges, it keeps your brain occupied, it keeps your lungs fresh, full of fresh air. It's absolutely one. It's so diverse, one seldom gets bored.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you very much, Jan, and Shereen, for presenting tonight.
And thank you. Thank you to the listeners as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight.
Thank you,
We'll see
Thandi. Thank you,
again
Jan.
next week. I've still got to find somebody to speak next week and talk to us. Okay.
Thanks, Thandi. Good night.
Thanks.
Buddy.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.